Ever notice how some people light up when plans get canceled? While everyone else is scrambling to go out, they're secretly celebrating another evening at home. If that sounds like you, you're not alone, and there's actually some fascinating psychology behind it. Before we dive deep into this, if you're enjoying this content, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss insights like these. Now, what makes some people genuinely happier within their own four walls, while others feel restless after just a few hours? The answer is far more complex and interesting than you might think. Here's what most people get wrong. They assume everyone who loves staying home is cut from the same cloth. They slap on labels like introvert, antisocial, or even lazy. But the truth is, there are actually several distinct types of homebodies, each with their own psychological profile, their own reasons, and their own relationship with solitude. Understanding which type you are can actually reveal a lot about your mental health, your needs, and how you process the world around you. Let's start with the first group, what I call the refuge seekers. These are individuals who didn't always prefer staying home. Something shifted. Maybe they went through a particularly challenging period at work where every day felt like walking through a minefield. Maybe they experienced a relationship that left them emotionally exhausted. Or perhaps they simply spent years overextending themselves in social situations, saying yes to everything until they hit a wall. For these people, home became more than just a place to sleep. It transformed into a healing space, a protective bubble where the rules of the outside world don't apply. When they're home, they don't have to perform, don't have to manage other people's emotions or expectations. They can finally let their guard down. What's interesting about this group is that they often surprise people. They might be perfectly capable of being charismatic and social, but they've learned through experience that they need substantial recovery time afterward. Their preference for home isn't about avoiding people. It's about honoring their own nervous system's need for restoration. These are the folks who will absolutely show up for you when it matters, but they've established firm boundaries about how much energy they're willing to expend because they've learned what happens when they ignore those limits. Then we have the constitutional introverts. This is the group that gets talked about the most, but often misunderstood. True introverts aren't necessarily shy or anxious. They simply process energy differently. Think of it like this. While extroverts gain energy from external stimulation, being around people, new experiences, and dynamic environments, introverts generate their energy internally. Social interaction, even positive interaction, depletes their battery. This isn't a flaw or something that needs fixing. It's just how their brain is wired. Studies have actually shown that introverted brains have higher baseline levels of internal stimulation, which means they don't need as much external input to feel engaged and alive. For them, being home alone with a book, a hobby, or their own thoughts isn't boring. It's actually deeply satisfying. Their home environment allows them to exist without the constant low-level stress of social monitoring, reading social cues, managing conversations, and regulating their energy output. They can just be, and in that space of just being, they often find their deepest contentment. The world often tries to convince introverts that something is wrong with them, that they need to be more outgoing, more spontaneous, more present at every gathering. But for constitutional introverts, learning to honor their nature rather than fight it is one of the most liberating experiences they can have. Now let's talk about the creators and deep thinkers. This is a fascinating group because their relationship with home has less to do with avoiding the outside world and more to do with accessing something within themselves that only emerges in solitude. Throughout history, many of our greatest innovations, artworks, and ideas have come from people who spent significant time alone. Think about writers who hole up in cabins to finish their novels, programmers who do their best coding in the quiet hours of the night, or artists who need complete silence to hear what their next piece should become. For these individuals, their home isn't just a retreat. It's a workshop, a laboratory, a sacred space where distraction falls away and they can enter a state of deep flow. The outside world, with all its demands and interruptions, can feel like static interference, preventing them from tuning into the frequency where their best work happens. This doesn't mean they're hermits or antisocial. Many creators have rich social lives, but they've learned to protect their creative solitude fiercely because they know that's where their true work gets done. They've discovered that innovation requires uninterrupted thought, that breakthrough ideas often come in moments of quiet reflection, and that the deepest insights emerge when you give your mind permission to wander without external pressure. Finally, there's the sensory-sensitive group. These are people for whom the outside world isn't just tiring, it's genuinely overwhelming. We live in an incredibly stimulating world: bright lights, loud music, crowds of people, constant notifications, traffic noise, the hum of conversation everywhere you go. For some people, this is exciting and energizing, but for others, it's like their nervous system is turned up to maximum volume all the time. They're processing every sound, every visual input, every social interaction at an intensity that most people don't experience. By the time they get home, they're exhausted, not from doing anything particularly strenuous, but simply from existing in an overstimulating environment. Home becomes their sensory safe haven. They can control the lighting, the noise level, the number of people around them. They can create an environment that doesn't constantly assault their senses. This isn't about being weak or overly sensitive. Research into sensory processing sensitivity has shown that about 15 to 20% of people have nervous systems that process sensory information more deeply and thoroughly. For them, loving home isn't a choice or a preference. It's a biological necessity for maintaining their well-being. But here's the critical part that nobody talks about enough. Regardless of which group you identify with, there's a line between healthy solitude and harmful isolation. That line can be incredibly easy to cross without even realizing it. What starts as restorative alone time can slowly morph into avoidance. The comfort that once healed you can become a prison that keeps you from growing. When you spend too much time in your head, your thoughts can start running in loops. Your world shrinks. Your comfort zone becomes smaller and smaller until things that used to feel manageable suddenly feel impossible. You might stop reaching out to friends, stop pursuing new experiences, stop challenging yourself. And the cruel irony is that the more isolated you become, the harder it feels to break out of it. So, how do you maintain that balance? How do you honor your need for solitude without letting it tip into unhealthy isolation? First, be honest with yourself about your patterns. Are you staying home because it genuinely recharges you, or are you avoiding something that makes you uncomfortable? Second, maintain connections even when you're home. Solitude doesn't have to mean total disconnection. Third, push yourself occasionally into small discomforts. Take a walk around your neighborhood. Have coffee with one friend. Attend one event. You don't need to become someone you're not, but you do need to keep your world from shrinking. And finally, pay attention to how you feel. If your alone time leaves you feeling restored and peaceful, you're probably in a healthy place. If it's leaving you feeling stuck, anxious, or disconnected from life, it might be time to recalibrate. The beautiful truth is this: there's absolutely nothing wrong with loving your home, with finding peace in solitude, with needing quiet to feel like yourself. You don't need to apologize for it or force yourself into a lifestyle that doesn't fit. But you also need to remember that you're a human being, and human beings need some level of connection, movement, and engagement with the world. Home should be your sanctuary, not your cage. It should be the place you retreat to for rest, not the place you hide to avoid living. So, which type resonates with you? Are you the refuge seeker who found peace after chaos? The constitutional introvert who's always been this way? The creator who needs solitude to access your best work? Or the sensory-sensitive person who finds the world overwhelming? Maybe you're a combination of several. Drop a comment below and let me know your story. Understanding yourself is the first step to creating a life that actually works for you.